Good afternoon. Council President Simmons, council members, my name is Chris Nagle with the Downtown Florence Alliance. It is a great honor to be before you today. Thank you. We're excited about this proposal. We have a grant opportunity that is basically our organization as a Main Street participant going to our parent at the Alabama state level, which would allow us to apply for the funding necessary to obtain 20 poles of 16-foot height, the cabling, the lighting, all of the hardware necessary in order to create a permanent lighting feature in Mobile Plaza. The rendering that you're seeing before you, a satellite view that actually kind of maps out what this would look like. That is from the Court Street Gateway corridor, running all the way to the Shoals Theater on Seminary. 20 poles would allow us to zigzag lights at 16-foot height, allowing us to clear the necessary DOT height requirements, and essentially light up what is a tremendous asset for downtown. There's a couple reasons for this. One is really event load in terms of downtown is actually growing. Interest in participating in different events is growing. This would allow us to actually channel a lot of that to a great spot in terms of, rather than closing down Court Street, which can and has been done and done to good effect, but businesses have approached us and said, can you do this delicately? Can you do this with for a UNA homecoming parade or the Christmas parade or for First Friday? But in other cases, there's an opportunity to have events actually held in Mobile Plaza. This would actually allow us to do that type of event and do it more frequently without disrupting downtown business, parking, in the way that a main corridor event would do. So this is our opportunity to basically approach our parent for funding that will have all of the hardware and purchase outlays that are required to do this in terms of poles, lighting, cabling, everything that's hardware related, and do that. And we've actually gone through the mayor's office. We've gone to area businesses. This has come out of our committee structure. We're coming to the council now to see if y'all have any questions, thoughts, things that we should do in terms of the next layer. So
I have two questions, if I could.
Yes.
One, there's one thing that drives me crazy with those lights is when they go out and nobody changes them. So who is going to be in charge of taking care of them, and will they be just permanently the white lights, or will they change colors?
Let me take the last question
Okay.
first. These lights up high will be permanent lights, because going with a programmable feature for these lights would be a very, very, very expensive process. So they would actually match the lights that you see in the alleyway now.
I got you.
And they would be up high enough to be able to do that.
Those are the ones I'm referring to that have been out and
Yes.
haven't been changed.
Well, one of the good things about this level is this would be a little bit lower.
Yeah.
So I could, with volunteers, we'd like to share this with the city, and that is where we could do this together. But if they went out in these strings, I could actually get out with volunteers and do that.
Okay.
I can't get up to the others in the alleyway presently.
Okay.
So to answer your question, I would actually be working with the city in terms of maintenance.
Well, I love the idea. I love it. I think it's going to look great, and we just need to keep them, make sure when they're out, where bulbs are changed or lights are changed.
How will this, Chris, work with the lights that are already there? We do have some of those decorative lights that are already on Mobile Plaza. So just kind of walk me through a little bit about the lighting scheme, if you will.
The lighting scheme A is to match whatever's there, because one of the things that does drive folks crazy, and I understand that, is when you have different type luminosity and whatnot, and this will be a sharp white and this will be a soft white. So we've worked hard to make sure that this matches that scheme.
So we'll still use those.
We will still use those. They'll come on at the same time.
Okay.
They'll be on a timer such that at that timer, whatever comes on in the alley would also come on in the street level.
Okay. And you said they would be used for events, and it would kind of now give people almost like a venue that would be lighted and then provide additional safety and all that. But I'm noticing here it wouldn't go through where the alleyway goes.
It does
Is
not.
that a DOT thing because of the?
In part because of the pass through. We do want to allow pass through, so there's no, does not impede that in any way. Actually, you'll see that I marked out some of those largely because when we did the locate for this, the locate did find that there is some sewer pieces that are right there. So in terms of making a, if you would, a 90-degree gateway, if you will, right there, that was not an option in the alleyway. It was an option at the courtyard, at the Court Street element and at the seminary element, but it was not in the alleyway. We would also be able to decouple these from so with carabiners and whatnot, so we could take down the light if we did need to have any, we'd have some flexibility, is the long and short of it.
Okay.
But the application asks us to, from the standpoint of design, promotion, economic vitality, this we believe will drive a lot of revitalization of 200 block in this corridor.
Thanks. I think that's going to be exciting.
And it could happen quickly because what we would do next is we'll work in the mayor's office for a letter of support, and then we'd submit the application, and we'll look to, with success, we'd go within 90 days, start.
What is the height that the DOT?
DOT requires 13.6.
They'll get 18-wheeler through there and fire trucks and all that through there, and it won't be 16 feet because that's the type.
We would have some
pole.
sag so that the lights will be at or the poles will be at 16. Even with any slag in the, we should be able to get to 14 and a half. So we're still within, we're still above a foot of what would be the requirement.
Who's setting the poles? Our contractor?
The city with the contractor would set the poles.
And what type of? I just can't think of. I won't say damage, but what would it do to where you setting the poles? Is it going to be like mess up the cobblestones part and all that?
We tried to have as little impact with this as we possibly could. So if you're looking at the rendering here, on the south side of the street, that is on the Wildwood side or the Shoals Theater side of things, we would actually be displacing the 3-foot ballard, and those would go into those spaces. The new seating would be actually on the Anco side of the street, and it would match those, and the city would through a contractor, would put those in place. But we think it'll be minimally disruptive because you can isolate or dislocate the brick that's right there and go down.
Sure.
All right, I've been working with Chris on this issue, and this is their grant. If it was coming through the city, they'd have to get permission for this. All he's coming for tonight, since it's their grant, is just seeing if the council informally is willing to do that. If they do get the grant, from my understanding from talking to Mr. Musgrove, they would have to go to the engineering department and get a permit to move forward. And I would assume, Billy, will they have to will we have to have an official resolution to do that?
I'm not positive about that, but we may, since we're going to be using the public right of way, or they're going to be using it.
So that will have to come back to us. All they're trying to do is get permission, and I'm going to issue a support letter for the grant if y'all are agreeable.
Well, what do we need to do, Ms. Simmons, to show our support for this? They don't require a vote. I don't know, or do we do an informal
I guess
gesture?
I
we
asked
can do an
them-
informal. I love the idea of it.
I'm supposing, and what I ask them to do is
Your
come
letter
to
of
the work
support should
session,
work.
just ask an informal letter or vote of support.
Can we? Well, let's do it with a motion then, even though it's
Yeah,
informal.
that's in my district, so I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Second.
All right. It's been motioned by Mr. Hendricks, second by Mr. Oliver. All in favor?
Well, there you go.
Thanks y'all so much.
Congratulations. Look forward to this.
Thank
moving
you.
forward. Mr. Coons.
David Kuntz, Solid Waste Street and Recycling. Several things on the agenda tonight, and this is the proposed rate increases for the Solid Waste Department on garbage fees, both commercial and residential. driven by the contract you guys passed last time with Waste Services of Northeast Mississippi, which represents an increase in our disposal costs for household garbage of approximately $900 or more $1,000 per year. They went up on us. We did accept the contract. We didn't really feel like we had a choice. So in order to recoup some of the funds, we're having to recommend a rate increase to recover some of that and try to keep the budget at a positive number, but this will probably still be a deficit budget. We did take this to the Finance Committee and we did take it to the Public Works Committee, and they have recommended a 12.5% rate increase for residential and commercial. So as it's on the agenda here, regular agenda item B, the first one is this is a change in the minimum charge for businesses that may share a dumpster or may share carts from $30 to $34. That represents 12.5% rounded off. So in other words, some businesses, we may have 8 businesses that share one dumpster, and so the minimum that each business pays will now be $34 per month. Some may pay more if they use the dumpster box more, and so forth and so on. It's kind of structured based on who's liable to put more garbage in it. And a lot of these dumpsters are downtown or in real retail areas. Item C is the dumpster rate increase. Once again, 12.5% across the board. Dumpster rates are set based on the size of your dumpster, either 4, 6, or 8 yards, and the amount of service you get, either twice a week all the way up to 6 days a week. And so that's a 12.5% across the board on that chart. And then the third one, item D, is the increase of residential service for residents going from $20 to proposed at $22.50. Once again, that's a 12.5% increase per month. The other thing that we are changing goes back to when we first put in the cart system. And back in those days, people were concerned, the council was concerned then, that maybe one 95-gallon cart wouldn't be big enough. And so, because some people thought they might have to have 2, so we allowed people to pay the deposit on a cart, which is $41, and get a second cart. We charged you nothing extra to empty it, so we're going to allow those people to keep their second and third carts, but from now on, if anybody wants a second or third cart, it'll be a $15 per cart per month charge.
So will that affect that? Make sure I understand this, Mr. Kuntz. Will this affect the people who already have this?
It will not.
So they will be fine.
Yep.
And if they have them and they don't use them,
Yep.
and they go down to 1, will they still be charged?
If they have them and don't use them.
Like, let's say they put 1 out instead of 2 or 3.
Oh, no. It's if you need 2 carts at your house and you want a second cart from this moment on, then you'll pay $15 extra in addition to your $22.50. And
Regardless of whether you
put it out or not. We don't have a system that we could check to whether they put it out or not. So this is common. Most cities do it this way, cities and counties. I should have fixed it years ago and I didn't. We still had the deposit system, and so now we've decided to kind of fall in line with everybody else. If you want a second cart and need a second cart, rather than paying full price for it, you're going to pay $15 for a second cart and a third cart.
every month.
Every month.
Does that also include recycling or just traditional landfill collection? garbage?
Recycling would be, if you needed a second recycling cart, it's no charge for that.
There's no charge for
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Yeah.
How much in the deficit will we still operate even if this were to pass?
Projected, we're still probably going to be about $100,000 budget deficit for the fiscal year 25.
Is there any way to make that up for the next fiscal year?
It's all projected. So if we recycle more, we can cut into it a little bit. If it's all in cost and things that go into the whole budget. It's a whole big budget picture, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I surely hope we're able to resolve that.
Yeah, and we're obviously looking at other options that will give us more control in the future, maybe a transfer station, maybe a partnership. And if we could develop something like that, we might be able to control our costs in the future. But, as I've told you last time, garbage costs are not going to come down. So that will continue to creep up for us and everybody around us, as a matter of fact. So the adjoining counties are in the same shape we are. They're looking at rate increases also. We are not the highest, by the way, at $22.50 for residential.
The old contract was about $36 a ton.
It was $34.88 a ton, $33.88 a ton, I'm sorry. And the new contract is $65.75 a ton.
And the increase you're asking for is $2.50 a month.
Per residential customer. Plus commercial customers at the same 12.5%.
Can you give us an example of what some of the other cities around us, and I'm not talking about just across the river, those and some others, what they're paying? Do you have any idea?
Yes, I can. So these are projections. I'm not sure contracts have been awarded, but bids have been opened. So a county south of us is projected to pay $53 per ton.
No, I mean what residential.
Oh, residential
what
rates?
Yeah, about what they pay. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, Lauderdale County, I think, is at 17 and looking at going up. Colbert County is looking at a $24, $25 per month. Let's see. Franklin County is trying to adjust their rates. They don't know what it's going to be yet. And so this is all new. All these waste companies have gone up on all of us in Northwest Alabama kind of at the same time. So everybody's in the same shape we are. We're having to adjust rates to recover the cost of what went up.
So we're pretty much in the ballpark of what everybody else is doing, a little less, a little more.
Yeah, we're in the ballpark of it. I think there will be several that'll be more than us in a couple months. And if you look, around the state, and I have that information at the office, I just didn't bring it tonight, but it's varied across the state.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd say your average is $20 to $25 a month.
All right.
Other questions about these changes, proposed changes?
Nope.
Okay, the next thing I have is an amendment. So the contract we did with Waste Services of Northwest Mississippi, we know them as Waste Connections. We had a little language glitch in there about a 30-day cancellation policy, so they wanted to make sure we had it structured so that we or they can cancel the contract with 30 days written notice, and we got that changed in this amendment to clear that language up to keep them satisfied and us satisfied also. So in other words, if we changed the way we were doing something or formed a partnership, for instance, we can notify them, or if they sold out, they can notify us that they weren't going to do our garbage. So that's to fix that language in that. So that's what that amendment is. Any questions on that one? Okay, the next is a change order with oil equipment. Now, oil equipment is doing the fueling station at the recycle center, and as I came to you some meetings ago about a change order on the fire department's AIM units. The AIM units go on the fire truck or fire car, whatever, and so we did that change order separately. So this change order for $6,977.41 is to go on the dispensers and the nozzles. So it's the other half of the system. So in other words, we didn't include those together, we did them separate, and we could have done them together, but we didn't. So this part allows a fireman to take the nozzle, put it into the fire truck, everything reads. Mileage from the fire truck, so forth, so on, gallons dispensed, hours, and all that stuff. So that's a change order that will...
And that affects your budget, not fire.
No, this should probably be under the fire department budget. Yeah, but it's all part of. They're doing the pilot work on this particular project. So this system with the AIM units, if they like it and it works really well, I imagine the whole city will go to it one day, or the general fund will go to it one day.
How long will you let it try to make sure?
We'll have the equipment, so it'll work this way from now on.
Okay.
They're part of it.
Got it.
We could add this. We could add the things to the vehicles for the rest of the general fund on down the road if need be, if we liked it and they like it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll need to vote on that one.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Eubanks, second by Mr. Edwards. All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Batson?
I have three items to discuss, and one of them is a contract with Rogers Group. And of course, we're getting close to being able to open up the parking deck, but those guys, when they were out there, they had to have cranes doing a lot of work on the street and everything. So, we thought it would be a good idea to just redo the section of Pine Street between Tom Bigby and Mobile. So that's what this is. It's in the amount of $53,299.50.
And that's to start and finish the work to totally complete that?
Yes, just for that one block.
One block.
Yeah.
Any idea when you would start? this
Well,
approval?
I talked to the guy that's foreman, for the parking deck work, and he said he was thinking that he was going to be out here, for another month. So I would think that we'd like to see them. I don't know when we'll start. I can find out for you, but I would think that we'd give them a little bit more time.
Okay. We'll need to vote on this change order.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Eubanks, second by Mr. Oliver. All in favor?
Second item is a change order for Rogers Group in an amount of $163,676, and it's for the paving work that's been done. The original contract was $2,627,791. So this is about a 6.2% increase, at this point. We know that, the next time we come before you, that there's a deduction coming up of about $30,000. But that's got to be balanced with some additional striping. So that's kind of where we are. And the reason, well, I've always given the guys that do the paving work, when they see something that looks like it needs to be fixed, I tell them to go ahead and fix it. And so that's one reason we typically run over a little bit on the paving program.
I just want to make sure that we're all clear on this. That was our regular paving project for this year that we built into the budget.
Yes, ma'am. And but they're about to start inspecting streets for the very next paving program.
Let's back up a minute. I'm confused. We voted on a change order for 53,000 something, but that's on the agenda, is it not?
It was the contract, and then
It's
now
contract.
this is the change order, second item. He just told us the amount.
Yeah, but that's,
It's already on the agenda, yes, sir.
so why do we vote on it?
I think we were mistaken. So we should have voted on the change order, but we didn't. We will now have to vote on this.
Okay, because that first vote on it, that wasn't a change order, that was the agenda. Right. But now we're voting on the change order.
Correct, which is significantly more.
Yeah, I like the 53,000 versus the,
There it is. I got two of these.
You said they are about to start looking at roads for next year?
Yes, Mike.
Who is they?
Rodney Barnes, David Looney, my paving, the guys that are there for the paving work.
Okay.
They're the ones that inspect the street and prioritize them and grade them, and based on the decision, they go from top to to bottom. The worst streets get first shot. Those are the streets that we'll do the first. But there's a lot of time spent on inspecting streets each year, and that's.
I was thinking about that this week. The number of hours it would take to. I assume you drive down every street.
Yep.
And they're employed by the city or by a contractor?
No, they're employed by us. They're in our department.
Okay. Thank you.
The same question again that Blake just asked. I guess either I'm dumb or I guess it could be it. But didn't we just voted to fix Pine Street up here where the parking deck is? And it was $53,299.50. And we voted on that, but it's on here.
We messed up.
Oh, we messed up. Okay, I'm not
We were,
doing.
we were treating that as a change order.
I got you.
But,
Well,
but
yeah.
we're on the change order now.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, on the idea of striping though, we're getting to a point where a lot of our striping for turn lanes and all that, it's getting pretty worn out. Can we also include that on this go round with the folks as they're looking at the streets? We need a lot more of that reinvigorated. I would
Yes, ma'am.
sincerely appreciate it. People are, some of it I know is private property coming out of parking lots that are privately held. But again, I think that would be some good work with those owners to get them to redo those.
Yes, ma'am. I'll talk to them about it.
That would be great. I think our drivers would really appreciate it, especially newer drivers to the area. Thank you.
And Bill, if there's any particular streets that we would like to suggest that they look at, who do we send those to?
Well, when they call our office, when somebody says, you really need to do this street, the first people we get it to is David and Rodney. So, I mean, we've got those guys looking at the streets all the time.
So send them to your department? Is that-
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
that's what I'm
they're the
saying.
same guys I've been talking about.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Motion?
So now the change order.
Okay.
Wait, Bill,
This is
hold on. We got to vote on the change order.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Edwards,
Second.
second by Mr. Oliver. All in favor of the motion? Thank you.
The last item is a proposal for, well, actually, we're getting an engineer to look at a roundabout at Seville and Gresham. And that's what this is for, in the amount of $185,960.53.
Are we splitting that cost with the county, or is that all our cost?
As of right now, I don't know. Now, I've heard that the county might participate, but I haven't talked to the county engineer.
Okay.
I was told in the finance committee meeting that all of that land at that intersection was all owned by the city. So I would assume that they wouldn't be splitting on that.
Well,
Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Because I thought the next one down that was
There-
proposed is the one that's kind of
Not all of it.
multi-jurisdiction.
I talked to Todd in our office, earlier today, and there's a 10-foot strip on, one side on Seville. And on the other side, I think that property owner, still is part of Saint Florine. So there's not all of the right-of-way that we need, but there are portions of it on both the on both the east and west side of Seville. Now, when you when you go across the road and you've got that Hunter's Ridge subdivision, that's all the city. But that's the situation as it is now. Okay. Any other questions?
So it is or it is not all the city?
No, the part to the north, Hunter's Ridge, is in the city. That subdivision right across the street.
Right.
But on the south, there are sections of it that we need to acquire
Gotcha.
on both sides. And one of them's a pretty narrow, I think a 10-foot strip, and the other one is where there's a residential home right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we would need those, to go ahead with this project. But, that's part of what they're looking at too.
Okay. Any additional questions from the council? Okay, thank you, Bill. Mary?
Good evening, all. I have a couple of items on the agenda. First one is item E, is an agreement to purchase some property with Mr. Reeder. We had this the last time, and he wanted to postpone it, but he is good to move forward with the purchasing of that property now.
Same price as before?
Correct. Nothing has changed. Any questions? Okay, item F is a memorandum of understanding with Coleman Electric Cooperative. This is working on a solar project that we're working on, and they are kind of taking the lead on it. And so this is just a understanding that we'll reimburse them for any expenses that they have, and basically they're going to be kind of the lead with us and Decatur on the project.
I'm sorry, Mary, you said they would reimburse us.
No, we would, the
Reimburse.
group of LPCs that are doing this project will reimburse Coleman for the expenses that are incurred for the project. Does that make sense?
It does. And how many people are a part of
There's
this?
10 currently, local power companies.
I appreciate you pursuing this, which is really out of the box. And I don't know, I can't think of anybody who's done that before. And
We're
how,
excited.
what would be the savings per year?
About 600,000 per year savings toward to the electricity department for purchasing power from our solar project versus TVA.
And TVA's always had a cap on how much, what percentage.
So right now, 5%, we can use 5% flexibility to purchase it from basically a DER, distributed energy resource. Currently, it's capped at 5%. We're hoping they increase it, but currently it's 5%.
That was my
which
next
is 18
question.
megawatts for us.
If they increase it, then we would most likely increase our,
Correct.
okay, which is a huge saving.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The last item is general business, item C, the electricity department budget for the year. I think all of you, I've spoke with the utilities committee about it, and they were good to move it forward to the full council. And our budget this year is $136 million, 133 of it going to operating expenses. We have 17 million going to capital expenses. 100 million of it, which is a majority, is going to purchasing power from TVA. Any other questions?
No, we had some good discussions
We
about it,
did.
Mary. Always very thorough to visit with you and Sandy and Jack and Mark. It was very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Good afternoon. I have one item on the consent agenda, item K, and this is 2 invoices that were combined and we put together from Barnett Plumbing. We basically had a toilet that the flange broke off in the floor at fire station number 1, and the small portion of this total invoice in the amount of $2,047 is for that repair. The remainder of the money is being invoiced from Fire Station 3. What we ultimately ended up finding is a partially collapsed sewer line out there, and they had to run some cameras and some flush equipment and that sort of thing into the system to find that. And this would be charged to account 266. Any questions? Both of those have been repaired.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shayna?
I have item H on the agenda, resolution with NeoGov for time clock purchase for integration with the implementation of our software, payroll software. Any questions on that?
How long do you anticipate before we receive it once this?
As soon as we get this approved, we'll go ahead and get them ordered. Intent with the payroll go live will be the first payroll in January.
Okay.
Yeah, should be pretty quick.
That's it. Thank you. Ted?
Afternoon, Tad Cole, Gas and Water. We've got 2 items on the consent agenda. The first item is reimbursement agreement with ALDOT. This is for the demolition of 3 existing manholes. This is at no cost to us. This is actually between the state's contractor and the state. It's basically just permission to allow them to remove these 3 manholes.
Where are those manholes at?
Mitchell Boulevard. They're right off. They're in excuse me, in conjunction with the Mitchell Boulevard project.
Thank you.
Any questions about that one? And the second item is a proposal with Snyder Electric for $291,134. This is for a 3-year contract. This contract will cover just a broad range of services and support for all of our Foxborough automation systems that are located at the Cypress Creek Water Treatment Plant, Wilson Lake Water Treatment Plant, and Cypress Creek Wastewater Treatment Plant. Basically, this group helps us maintain all of our automation for all of our equipment. And so this is it's a pretty expensive project, but it's also broken down quarterly. It's on Section 7.4. We actually pay that quarterly over the next 3 years, and that you can see that on Section 7 of the contract agreement. Any questions on that one?
Schneider is also known for their, they help people with energy conservation.
Yes.
Is this that same company, but it's a different
Yes,
thing
ma'am.
that
They've
they're
really
doing?
broadened in the last decade or so. They cover a broad range of, but yes, that is the same company. Any more questions? Thank you.
Mark?
You want me to elaborate any more on the budget, Mary?
Oh, yeah, we've already did the budget. Yeah.
No, he's just on here. Okay, no, we're good. You're good. Okay. Ms. Bailey?
There is a public hearing tonight on item 9A for the rezoning of the property at, let's see, my top sheet is wrong here. On Gresham Road, near Deerfield Apartments. They will be, or they were requesting to rezone from R1 to R3 for a multifamily business district. This was unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission. A couple of things to point out about this particular piece of property is, of course, it is adjacent to some existing multifamily development. The property would actually hold or support 120 units. But the developer is only looking at doing 53. These are more condo style units rather than the stacked like a quadplex. Gave you a copy of a site layout in the memo that I sent. Other than that, he did have to do a traffic study, and of course with the significantly reduced number of units which he proposed, we did not propose those, he did, there was no impact to travel with that such a reduced number of units.
Melissa, I know this came through planning, and I appreciate you sending the documents out to all of us again. That was really helpful, a good reminder. He didn't have any thoughts to expand to completely fill it up, right? 53 was his max number.
He is filling it with the 53.
Right, but
yeah,
he's-
it maxes out the property.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to make sure that I understood correctly.
Sure.
Are those for rent or purchase?
I don't know. That wouldn't be something that,
The
that we would
standard
even
is
be allowed to ask.
the standard is much higher than normal with each one having a covered parking
Sure.
area.
This particular developer has built a very similar concept on County Road 47 near Cedar Park. But as far as, I mean, the Fair Housing Act doesn't allow us to, and nor would we need to know if they were going to rent or sell the units. It doesn't make a difference in terms of zoning.
It is a higher standard than we've seen built lately. It's a good project.
No additional questions for?
Okay. Would you like for me to conduct the hearing in the same way that we did at
Yes,
the last
ma'am.
meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Leidy?
Bob Lighty, City Clerk Treasurer. I have two items under general business, and then there's one under the consent agenda that I need to talk about. Under general business, item A is a resolution to approve an alcohol beverage license application for the operation of an automatic self-service station and convenience foods, retail table wine off premises by Swami Bappa 2024 Corporation, doing business as Shantu Food Mart, located at 2207 Huntsville Road, sponsored by me. They had, within the last month or two, gotten a beer, off-premise beer license. We tried to encourage them to go ahead and get a wine license at the time, and they said no, they didn't want wine. Well, then they come back 2 weeks later, now they want wine. So this is going to be a wine license in addition to their beer license.
I was just fixing to ask that. Because I remember we voted on that.
Item B is a resolution to approve alcohol beverage license application for a special event retail with on-premises liquor, beer, and wine by KBT Enterprises, doing business as All the Best Block Party, located on South Seminary Street between Tennessee Street and College Street. The street party to take place on Saturday, September 23rd, sponsored by me. And they have done this. I think this is like maybe the third year that they've done this. And then one item that's not on the work session agenda, but it's item G under the consent agenda, resolution to approve an agreement with Global Fire Sprinklers LLC, doing business at Global Fire and Security for alarm and area refuge signal monitoring for the new public parking deck located at 250 North Pine Street. The amount of, and it's actually should be $1,540. It's a $400 one-time fee, and then $1,140 per year after that. And this is basically for monitoring the elevators and the fire alarms over there. And it's something we need to do right away. Get in there before everything gets done. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you much. Mr. Musgrove?
Good afternoon. I just have one item on the agenda tonight, and it is a resolution regarding the possible hotel project at on South Court Street that Mr. Sack has brought forward. It is that there will be a public hearing tonight on, just so the public can express their opinions about the economic development project. The resolution is required by the Alabama Constitution in order to lend the city's credit or give anything of value to a private entity. And so the resolution makes certain findings that this project will have benefits for the general public, notwithstanding the benefits to the private party. And so this is another step that this is something that the city has to do before it can move forward with the development agreement, which is not quite, we're still negotiating a few small points in that right now. And it should be, if the council approves the resolution tonight and chooses to go forward, we should have that development agreement ready for review in plenty of time before the next council meeting. So. Any questions?
I don't think so.
All right, thank you. And can I, with your permission, Mr. President, if I can bring up one other thing. There's the last resolution on the work session agenda is sponsored by the City Council because it's appointments to the 911 board. But the way it's addressed in the table of contents for the meeting and the on the agenda is not exactly correct. It's to appoint Chief Anderton and Chief Holt and the mayor, who is a joint appointment that Lauderdale County Commission has already made. They'll swap. The chairman of the Lauderdale County Commission and the mayor of the city of Florence will alternate as the chairman of the 911 board. And in addition, the city council has to appoint one of its own members. And so on the resolution, that's left blank. So whoever this council chooses to serve on the 911 board, you just need to decide that before you approve this resolution.
Okay.
So, because I did not know who, I didn't know if that had been talked about yet, but I think Mr. Oliver is on the 911 board currently, but I didn't know if that's.
Billy, what happens to the current board members?
They will, I think most of their terms have expired, or one moved out of the city limits. It was a city appointment, but they'll just be replaced by the new board members. I think I said effective as soon as the county appointments become effective, because I wasn't certain. But I think, yeah, Mr. Holmes is here, so if he can probably speak to that better. But this is, and just for informational purposes, the Lauderdale County has appointed Sheriff Hamilton and I can't remember the person, but a representative from the county volunteer fire departments, and who is the county commissioner, Brad?
Joe Hackworth.
Yeah, Mr. Hackworth. Those are their appointments. But the principle is to have representatives from county and city public safety entities, and then one council member and one commissioner, and then the mayor or the chairman of the county commission alternating as the chairman of the commission. So I just wanted to, even though it wasn't my resolution. So, any questions? All right.
Y'all have any?
So we need,
Mr. Holmes, did you want to elaborate a little bit more on this?
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Good. I'm going to take my seat.
Thank you, Madam President. So the County Commission has passed their resolution, but the resolution is contingent upon the City Council passing a similar resolution. The County Commission appointed Steve McEachran as the appointee representing the Volunteer Fire Department, and as Council said, Sheriff Hamilton representing the Sheriff's Department, and then Commissioner Joe Hackworth. As we've discussed previously before the Council, the intent is to ensure that as we move forward to the next chapter of 911, that we do include those entities of public safety who've been underrepresented within the organization for a long period of time. We're obviously in the process of renovating the new facility, and so as part of the negotiation and getting to this point, it was agreed upon that because the financial interest right now lie solely with the city as we get into the renovation project, that it was appropriate for the mayor of the city to serve as the chairman for representation purposes. And so that's where we're at. Councilman Oliver has served well, and I appreciate his service, and we discussed with all of the board members at the last board meeting the potential for change within the board. Just to tell you a little bit about our organization as you make the decision as to who's best going to represent you. Our organization is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation. We dispatch for everyone in Lauderdale County minus the City of Florence Police Department, the University of North Alabama Police Department, and Animal Control. We currently have 24 employees. Of those 24 employees, about 96% are female employees that work within the organization. Our funding is derived from the 911 fees that we all pay as part of our telephone bills monthly. And so there's a lot of work back and forth with the state 911 board to try to ensure that money comes back into Lauderdale County to support the system.
Mr. Holmes, I did not, you said 96% of your staff is women?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any women represented on this board?
No, ma'am, not at this point. We would welcome that, absolutely.
I mean, I feel like that's a voice that's missing if that's where your employee, I mean, that's a huge
Yes, ma'am.
balance issue.
Yes, ma'am.
So-
Understand from my position, I'm trying to keep all of you happy. So y'all make that decision. But as far as representation goes, there has been in the long history of 911 since 1984, there's been one female. Rhea Fulmer was on the 911 board for a short time. She has been the only female representative on the board. The industry is very much dominated by the female population. We have some phenomenal employees that dedicate their lives to protecting our community. But as Councilwoman has said, we would obviously welcome a woman's voice and perspective on a board. that represents that percentage.
Yeah, and I feel like your employees, have they voiced a concern with you about that, just out of curiosity?
I don't know that they have voiced a concern. I think it's obviously an undertone that resonates and has resonated. So that, you know, representation is always tricky. And you know, when I was with the police department, we had an initiative to try to recruit more female police officers. And so, to me personally, as the director, representation is important.
I agree with that. That's a big deal. So, okay. Thank you. I was not aware that it was so out of balance.
Yes, ma'am.
So you also mentioned the mayor would chair it. Did I hear that correctly, that it rotates with the county commission?
Yes, sir.
Chair, and then what is that term in rotation?
Is it yearly or 4 years?
I can't remember. I want to say it's annually, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
I don't have an actual copy.
And it starts on the mayor's side?
Yes,
then
it
goes-
does.
Okay.
It does. Any other questions? All right.
No, do y'all have any additional questions?
Happy to do it.
What timeline before we should be appointing a member from this council to serve there?
Respectfully, as quickly as possible. At this juncture, the city appointees are outside of their appointment dates. The county appointees are on hold, so at this point, I don't exactly have a board. So the sooner that you can do that, the better it would be for us and our organization moving
So
forward.
my understanding, Mr. Musgrove, right, that we can't vote on this tonight until we have my seat?
My thought was that we could just pick somebody
Yeah.
and we'll fill in the name on the resolution, because the resolution appoints all of them.
Okay.
So as long as the council can decide among yourselves tonight, then I would recommend we do it tonight.
And if that can't happen, Councilman Griffin, we can still continue to function, but we're getting close to the end of our budget year, and so we need the board in place so that we can discuss, you know, the upcoming budget and the priorities for the upcoming year. But as of now, we have a fully functioning budget. We still have signatories, so we can still continue to operate until such time as the council makes their appointments.
So, Councilman Oliver, your term is up. Is that what
No,
you're
the
saying?
Councilman Oliver is the exception to the rule on the county side. Excuse me, on the city side.
Gotcha.
He's still within his term.
Oh, okay, gotcha. When you said thank you for serving, I thought, he was.
No,
going
I just
away.
told, no, what I explained to the board, the question had been brought up by the mayor and by the county commission chair. What was the plan for the existing or the sitting board members? The majority of those are outside of their term. The county made the decision that those that weren't outside their term, that at the discretion of the county, that they would replace those because board members serve at the pleasure. And so they made that decision there. When we last had our board meeting, I explained to the board what the conversation had been between the city council, the county commission, and what the potential direction of the 911 board remakeup might look like. So everyone was aware that there was a potential that the city council and or the county commission would choose to exercise their authority to replace board members.
Gotcha.
A woman's voice is really needed.
That's right.
Truly. That is too far out of balance for that to be let go.
Madam President, I'd like to nominate Mrs. Eubanks for that position.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Griffin, second by Mr. Hendricks. All in.
I should accept the nomination, yes.
Well, I just assumed that you had.
But that's a glaring issue,
Yes, you
Mr.
can.
Holmes. That's so.
Anything else, Madam President?
Councilwoman Eubanks, do you accept?
I do, yes. If you all agree.
Now, we have a motion by Mr. Griffin, second by Mr. Hendricks. All in favor of the motion?
I guess since I'm going to get kicked out of my seat, I'll go ahead and vote for her.
Thank you.
Come anytime.
The meetings are at 12, so you better be there.
Keep up my word.
I'm kidding.
Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President.
I think that's all we have as far as the work session is it's 5 o'clock. We'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and start up.